Avec ce que j'ai sous la main. Voilà. Well, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we shall resume for the final phase of this very rich meeting. Before I give the floor to my colleague Hervè-Adrien for wrapping up our conclusion. So we will have some time with the panel and the audience for raising some questions and answers. So sorry for the panel, you have not finished your work. Is your final activity. Before we start, please allow me to mention that yesterday in Paris we had the official funeral of 2 French soldiers who were shot dead during an operation for rescuing hostages. That reminds us that our world is dangerous, that beyond budgets and helicopters, there are men of 30 years old who die for making our world safer. And we are there, or the French army, with some support of the EU and the help of the United States intelligence for fighting terrorism. So that's part of the threats that were described this morning. So, coming back to the main issue that we're dealing with here, auditing, security, and defense, I would like, to raise the debate maybe about three issues that we have considered and which are really very relevant for auditors. The first one is, what about the question of IT systems? And we had this morning telling that there is the finger on the trigger, but there is the finger on the mouse too, and clicking on computers. And I understood, I'm not a specialist of different issues, but it's one of the issues of systems in the army. So how do we deal with that from the point of view of the auditor? What are the key issues about that? The second question I would like to ask you to bring to the debate is, we have considered, that was well presented this morning by Mr. Serrano. The question is that we are dealing with defense and security. And the question is that beyond defense, and once again, I will quote Nicolas Chapon, the science fiction landscape is that, in fact, most of the issues that we are dealing with are a problem of security and not only defense. So how do we cope with that, considering that all these issues are very complex and there is a question, of course, of armies and defense, but also migration, economic, climate change, etc. And all that makes our world so uncertain and dangerous. It's not only a question of dealing that with the usual tools and weapons that we had. That's my second question. And the third one is, but probably Hervé-Adrien will have the conclusions about that, is that we have addressed all the issues of auditing, this very complex thing. Frank Mack did with uncertain basis, legal questions, technical issues, etc. How can we better cooperate? We have the question of different auditors at different levels in the member states, at the EU level, international agencies, internal, external auditors. We have addressed this issue through some presentation about how we can cooperate between auditors. And we have the same objectives, probably the same ethics, and probably too the same methodology. So how can we make, how are we able to make all these issues more and more auditable, which is the first issue, the first challenge, and more open, more accountable, more efficient, etc. So about these three questions, maybe around the panel, who would like to raise the debate and answer and raise some issues about that. IT systems.
Well, so I'm kindly requested to initiate the debate. As a matter of fact, as many of us know, and as I said quite briefly in my presentation, we cannot perform audits without taking into account IT matters. First, because IT matters have been considered for a long time in the private sector as a business risk and not only a support field risk, but really a business risk, because well, as the chairman of the CIGREF, very important club of general managers in Paris related to IT matters, and this chairman said 10 years ago already that whatever may be the business of a firm, this firm must be at the top level in finance, human resources, and IT. So we must obviously deal with these questions because first it's a tool of performance, and as we observe in our Ministry of Defense in France, proper IT systems and IT governance are a success condition of the transformations and for gaining in performance and efficiency. But is also a source of threats and weaknesses because, as you all know, not only because of cyber threats, all kind of deficiencies and problems may occur from the IT systems, which leads to the question of business continuity plan and business recovery plans, which are not always properly taken into account by the entities we audit. So this is for us a very tremendous question. And as we said, in addition, IT is an audit tool for auditors, and we have to do our best to be performing, to perform data analytics for the basic, I would say, audit approach, and also be in a position to and be prepared to perform IT project audits, IT governance audits, and so on and so forth.
How can it address the issue in the development of EU defense in research industry? How can we develop this question of IT systems in our armies?
The development of this kind of systems is part of a general approach that we have started in our armies within the context of the hybrid war. I mean, we are preparing for unconventional war fighting, and this includes all these kinds of advanced technology, and this is reflecting the future. So this is what we are doing in the different. Of course, each army has a different approach, and the international organizations have different approaches. But there is not a recipe for that. The only thing that exists is that each army will adjust its efforts to the threat that we'll have on these issues, and also to the financial capacity on how much money it will spend for research and development on this, or how close it is with the big boys who have the big research capabilities, and they will give you, they will provide them with advice or with some pieces of equipment in order to do the job. So it's more or less, yes, it is the future, no doubt about it, but The problem is something that the British general said a long time ago when his country bought a super electronic system costing billions of pounds, and said, we gave 5 billions of pounds and this bloody system is not killing anyone. So you understand, I mean, it's an adjustment of our understanding of the situation and of how all these systems and all these efforts will help us to prevail, if necessary, without killing anyone, just to handle the situation in the proper way. So it is the future, as I said, and this is what and this is how we should see. But how much we can afford of that, this depends on our financial capabilities, financial capacity. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the issue? And maybe my question will to Hervè-Adrien.
Well, probably not a question, is just a reflection about the use of IT and IT in the world of auditing. What I'm concerned with is a possible future use of disruptive technologies for auditing, because we are talking of algorithmics, data analytics, blockchains, all the tools that until now auditors have not yet really explored for the sake of auditing. But it will come. I do believe that this is the future of auditing. And in a way, it sort of strengthens the sharpness of the dilemma that we have, that we are facing in auditing, security and defense areas. That is the dilemma between transparency versus handling sensitive information, the access to information versus confidentiality, because those tools are so powerful that our auditees might feel in danger if auditors would make use of such tools in the future for auditing security and defense areas, programs, operations, general.
Well, after my 45 years in the army, I can tell you, every time we are trying to use confidentiality or highly classified issues and excuses, we are trying to hide something, because we can, from the auditors. So I would be very suspicious every time I will see in an institution or in an army or somewhere, the official telling to the people that, no, you cannot do that. This is highly, highly secret and we don't trust you. You can find 3 auditors to go there and that you can trust them with the proper credentials and certifications and do the job. So I'm convinced that every time we hear these stories about transparency is not necessary here because it's highly classified, something is behind. So I'm clear that, and I will never accept that as an excuse, and I never accepted an excuse like this, that no control here because it's highly confidential. Find the people who are properly classified and do the job.
It's a key challenge for auditors to get the right skills for doing that. Do we have to train them or to hire them? How can we do?
Both.
Both.
If you have them, confidentiality is something we achieve. It doesn't come from God. So it's you have a number of auditors that can be can have the proper credentials, the proper classification to do the job. That's it. So send them to the US NSA, send them to, I don't know, to NATO Secret Service, to somewhere. And they will take their classification, and then they will come back, and they will start checking the people. And you can do that. I mean, we can do everything we want if we want to. I believe that most of these are just excuses to avoid the control. Because exactly as Dr. Layton says, I mean, when the auditors come, this may destroy your career, your system, your future, so it's clear. Yeah, I mean, we have lived through this system all these years. We know how it works. I mean, I can tell you cannot pass this door because it's all the big secrets of the country are there. And there will be probably some pistols that you have lost, or they are broken and you cannot fix them, and the auditors will find them. I mean, it's sorry to say that. I mean, maybe I simplify the whole concept of how we deal with that. But if we want, we can do it. If we want really to control the expenses, and we should control the expenses, because nowadays we buy a lot. We buy a lot, and there are things that they cannot be assessed. In the past, maybe it was clear with cannons and battle tanks and aircrafts. Now the prices are going high, and they are going high because you have added 3 microchips. So you need to have trustworthy people and procedures to protect your taxpayers. This is how I see it now.
Are there any questions on this issue? So I will move to the yes. Yeah.
So if I can add something to the debate. So first thing about experience, I was asking a question about the tax and the paper. So one of experience in the French MOD as a good move, driven by the Ministry of Finance, was the let's say more or less the eradication of all the little databases that were existing in the MOD, in the French MOD. So, and this so-called project, Chorus project, was replaced with only one database. And this is for the auditors a very good way of accessing a completely set of coherent data. So that's something to my knowledge, very powerful tool for the auditors to have a consistent set of data. Then the second, but drive to the second a little bit, shade my statement with the paper, and if you allow me to share one of already an ancient experience when we have implemented the paperless workflow already more than 10 years ago. The first thing that my financial controller asked me is, yeah, but could you print a statement of that magnificent workflow, because my mindset, this is my interpretation, my mindset is not ready to accept this tool that is working fine, was already working fine 10 years ago, and maybe it's also something without being provocative to the auditors also in terms of mindset. Are the auditors ready to work completely electronically without any paper? And it's not a matter also of I mean, I say not provocative because it's not a matter of mindset. It's matter also of archiving. So, you know, if you audit everything on electronic, what do you have at the end of the day? Or do you keep that data? And it's something as financial manager I'm also very much concerned when we move to this new ERP, and this is our BOA chairman presented you their report, but of course, as I told you, I was not the initiator, but I was contributing to that report, telling them I'm very much concerned about how we are going to keep the track of this data and so on. So that's something that goes together and something we need to think about. The other thing I would like also to highlight is in terms of access, the cloud technology is everywhere, and I can even tell you. SAP, the big company have all moved to cloud technology, means that the way the programming is done is completely different. This impacts the business of the software company, and this obviously impacts the business of defense. Although we have to have a specific system that we call on-premises, but the technology is there. Therefore, as you said, for us auditors, it's a very scary perspective that these data are available, because at the moment, let's say the concept of audit is we are visited by auditors, therefore we get a kind of I will not say control, because you will not like it, but there is a kind of if I compare to the battlefield in the Middle Age, you know, there was an army meeting on the battlefield and say, okay, now we are going to fight. So this little bit, the audit is a little bit like this, you know, we have a certain period of time, the auditors are there, and we are ready to stand with our evidence. And this new cloud and access for us, auditee, is a very scary perspective. Yeah. And then last thing, if you allow me to finish with a touch of humor, although finance in humor is not always very successful, but I will do my best. Because, you know, if maybe it also happened to you, you know, if I say to a nice lady in the evening in Luxembourg, elsewhere, you know, I'm doing with finance and accounting, if she's not running away, I'm already very lucky. But to talk about the non-conventional attack, as the general was mentioning, I would like to just to give you a very simple example, because when we talk about IT, sometimes we forgot the basics. Well, just to tell you something happened to me 6 months ago. I received a fake letter of a company with a nice bank account that we found out was in Czech Republic, and therefore we are never going to see that money again. So it was just with a fake headers of the company that we have in OCA with a nice address. I don't know how they get our contact. They have been. We found out afterwards they phoned the standard, and then they found an excuse to get direct to my financial services. So, you know, so we have also to be careful about this all nice way of making fraud. Will stay there. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to sort of object to the picture you are giving of auditors, because auditing is not that battlefield that you describe, and it is actually today auditors make an extensive use of electronic and softwares and auditing softwares. They have remote access to ERPs or whatever database that are maintained by the auditors. So my concern was about the future use of new breakthrough technologies. Can you imagine, and in the future probably auditors will be prepared, if they are not prepared, they better be prepared to, be assisted by IT experts who would make use of powerful softwares. And can you imagine the use that auditors could make, and I think they will make use of such tools in the future, of data mining, text mining, of traffic of emails, to get a better knowledge of contract preparation, contract negotiation. This is what the auditors will do in, I believe, a very near future. And my concern was, okay, if they would like to do that, what will be the response of the Defense Forces military auditees with regards to confidentiality? If you have a full, unlimited access to a series of documents, you were discussing this morning, we're discussing the access to information. How can we know that some information is available? Now, with the sort of tools, you will have a very fast and even immediate knowledge of what is the information available. So this is probably in the future something that we will have to discuss with auditees, and if we need to train the auditors, we'll probably also need to train the auditees in the common understanding and a contribution to the final product of the audits.
That's a good transition for my third question, because I will skip the second one. I think it could be the topic for the next workshop. But about the cooperation between, well, I know it's a key issue. All of us, we know what it is and how it's difficult to organize that, considering the independence of our institutions. Well, internal auditors, external auditors, national auditors, international ones, EU ones for auditing what? I hope I don't step into your conclusion, Hervé-Adrien, but how can we organize that? We had already some hints about that this afternoon, and how do you consider that, improving that? Because after this workshop, of course, we have to elaborate and to build something about cooperation. I hope so. So who wants to start with this question? A very difficult question. I've been living all my life of auditor, trying to find a solution for that. Well,
I can make a start if you like. So just after what we presented to the audience, I think the first thing we see as a good potential, good start, applying the standard. I mean, the standard is this adapted framework and so on. I think would be for us. We apply the IPSAS. We have some specificities, and we can easily, like the ISO, as we explain standard for us is the answer. And then the second thing is it goes together with standardization of the tool. So all this will help. And of course, last thing we try to demonstrate this afternoon is like for any bureaucratic staff, you can write the nicest text. The relationship is key. You have to have a good relationship between the auditee and the auditors. Make sure we understand each other, and just a little bit to as a follow-on of the previous one on the IT system. I have a young daughter, so she's connecting on everything. I'm completely old compared to her because it's completely intuitive. But the thing I can really tell you, and I think is something in the auditors as to consider, is not because you have access to everything. You have a lot of data, like my daughter. You have access to internet and everything. She needs to understand what she's looking at, and the analysis and the filter will still require experience of the audit itself. Therefore, you will need to be assisted by IT expert that will be able to do the filtering job as you are doing today on paper. But the analysis, I mean, to me, I'm absolutely not worried at all for your business. You are going to stay there and with the capacity of analysis. It's just the format of where you are doing the job that is going to change in my mind. But sorry to follow on the first one. I give you my point of view on the third topic.
Thank you. In your opinion, my question is to all auditors. What made auditors closer? I know that in France, for instance, certification made internal auditors, helped us to build internal audit, but it made internal auditors and external auditors, the Court of Auditors, closer. Is it only a matter of standards, of cooperation, of workshops in Luxembourg, or how do you feel that with that, all the auditors here?
Sorry, I have answers to all the questions. It has been said by my distinguished colleague, Hans Leitens, when he said we need first to have, between auditees and auditors, a common understanding of the objectives, the intentions of the audit. What's the purpose of auditing? Now, it could be an issue between auditors and auditees, but I wouldn't say it is an issue between auditors. And at least if it is, it has to be clarified. And I believe that auditors, be them internal auditors, of course we know that the position of internal auditors is quite different, not so different, but a bit different from the one of the external auditors. But also, quality auditors, whatever auditors you could find in this area, more or less, they have the same understanding of what audit is about and what audit can do to help, either internally the executive or the management, or externally the governing bodies or other external stakeholders. So I don't see that cooperation among auditors be an issue. They have the same standards, they have the same understanding of audit, they work towards the same goal, that is helping whichever stakeholder in the overall world of management, operating, etc. So I don't see that there is really an issue, but probably we should ask, I mean, practitioners here, we have internal auditors, we have external auditors, we have other sort of auditors, international auditors, national auditors. Maybe, as you did, you could ask the audience.
I do agree with Adrien, but well, don't you think that there is always some reluctance, as you mentioned in your introduction yesterday, is that the auditor may consider the external auditor as a potential sanction? And well, I saw this morning, Nicolas Chapon explaining us with a slide, very clear slide, that there is an audit gap. It's not only a matter of understanding, that's the question, that we don't audit everything that we could audit. So what is the opinion of the Contrôle Général des Armées about that cooperation? You had a question about that, General, I know, this morning, telling what kind of cooperation with the Court of Auditors, but maybe what would you recommend for improving, trying to address the audit gaps and improving cooperation between all around the community of auditors?
Well, as far as we can observe the situation, for example, within the Ministry of Defense, as I said, but very briefly, we are acting as internal audit institution at the minister's level, but there are other audit bodies within the Ministry of Defense, and we have a goal of improving the coherence and the efficiency of this audit function by avoiding, as you say, the audit gaps, and avoiding also the case of over-auditing of some entities. Because, as I said, too much audit kills audit, and there is more and more, I think, a level of acceptance of audits by auditors. And I took in a talk during a coffee break the example of our joint headquarters. They have, coming from various audit bodies, Cour des comptes, Contrôle Général des Armées, Inspection des Armées, any kind of audits, quality audits, of whatever. 500 recommendations a year which have to be dealt with, which is incredibly important and excessive. Having said that, if we we try to address the problem of cooperation between internal audit and external audit, so in the public sector, an audit body like we are, and the French Cour des comptes. So it's a question of will and a question of self-confidence, of mutual confidence between the various bodies to see whether it is relevant for the actor 1 or the actor 2 to perform his audit, taking in mind that the other has done the audit on the same scope or is intending to perform an audit on the same scope. So we have to improve the cooperation, but it's a matter of, for the moment, more of persons and culture to improve this cooperation between the two actors of this audit function, internal and external.
Sometimes auditing sounds a bit like a sort of cult. A closed community of people being very serious about the business, and they should be. There's every reason to be so. But a very practical proposal from my side would be, if you think about management development, high potentials, I would propose for high potential in management to do at least one tour, either in finance or in auditing, any other way around. Because for both sides, it will tremendously improve not only the acceptance, but also the knowledge. I mean, both of them can be looked upon as opportunities to learn from each other. And right now, management and auditing are really separate communities and not really trying to be cross-functional, etc. So a lot of examples, careers are within their own community. And my proposal would be, why not make one step outside and learn from a different perspective on the reality? Because otherwise, the danger is that you believe that your own perspective is the only perspective on the reality of doing business in whatever company or organization.
Thank you. Before I give the floor to Hervè-Adrien for the conclusion, are there any questions on this issue or others for the panel? No? So thank you. So I will give the floor to Hervè-Adrien for the conclusion, wrapping up. And
There is no PowerPoint, but I prefer to be standing. Instead of 15 minutes, I have 4 minutes. So I will try, and you know this is a challenge for me to make it short. And I will also alternate French and English. So we have lessons learned and highlights. I'll start with lessons that I believe we learned. The first lesson is toujours faire confiance à la Cour européenne, à la Cour des comptes européenne et à l'équipe de son secrétaire général pour organiser un grand événement d'échange professionnel comme celui que nous avons vécu. Première leçon. Second lesson, always trust engaged practitioners and be confident in their capacity to share their experience through relevant, impactful, albeit not always within schedule, presentations. Troisième leçon. C'est French, English, French. La journée et demie que nous avons passée ensemble a sans conteste confirmé la pertinence du principe fondamental essentiel pour les auditeurs selon lequel on ne saurait auditer utilement sans une connaissance précise et approfondie des audités. A deep knowledge of their culture, their organizations, their structures, their processes. I will not come back to each and every presentation, but we definitely end up with a deep, comprehensive and substantial knowledge of EU's security and defense policies, strategies, structures, means. And a corollary of this third lesson is that although it may prove that some of the most recent initiatives, namely regarding PESCO, European Defence Fund, tools, etc., be somewhat subject to controversies among EU member nations, that is probably all the more reason for external auditors, namely the ECA, to get into the game. When the basis of a strategy and policy are questioned, even challenged, there is obviously room for auditors to assess the consequences of such a controversy on the economy, the performance in general, of the actions that are nevertheless taken, and the tools that are used. Quatrième leçon. Les responsables exécutifs de la Commission que nous avons entendus, les civils ou militaires, aussi bien que le membre du Parlement européen, nous ont, je crois, confirmé l'importance, le caractère essentiel vraiment d'un dispositif indépendant, crédible et respecté de contrôle externe comme condition de la crédibilité, de la fiabilité, tant pour les citoyens, contribuables, que pour les acteurs eux-mêmes de ces politiques et de ces initiatives, nécessité de ce contrôle externe indépendant sur la politique et les moyens de sécurité et de défense. Alors, il me reste 1 minute 30, je vais essayer de passer les 12 highlights que j'avais notés. Je vais aller aussi vite que possible. maybe in a, row order. First highlight that I noted is, obviously we agree on the complexity of the defense sector, of the programs, the structures, the industrial projects and processes. We had an example with Rheinmetall head of accounting who presented that high complexity of the industrial processes and management. The complexity of the game of the actors proves to be a substantial challenge for auditors. It entails a number of difficulties that need to be tackled by auditors. Otherwise, it would dramatically affect the audit efficiency and its usefulness. I will list first a need for specific evaluation skills to disentangle technical, industrial, legal, or other types of complex networks and connections. And the complexity also was confirmed by our Rheinmetall presenter. There's also a need for a tight and efficient audit planning in view of struggling successfully against time and resource shortfalls. And I also noted a need to simplify the messages to governing decision makers without losing substance of the matters. And this is probably one of the challenges that are addressed in my introductory message. And I do believe that after this day and a half discussions, it is one of the most difficult challenges that auditors have to face. Make it simple to decision makers or governing bodies, albeit the high complexity of the subjects that the auditors have to deal with. I also highlighted that l'accès à l'information dans le domaine de la sécurité et de la défense est et doit être un souci constant qui réclame des efforts soutenus et spécifiques de la part des auditeurs. Tous les auditeurs, internes, externes, tous les auditeurs. Tous les exemples qui ont été exposés pendant cette journée et demie ont identifié le sujet comme un chemin particulièrement critique de l'audit. Mais nous retenons aussi en corollaire l'extrême importance d'établir des bases solides, comme nous venons de le dire, de compréhension, d'acceptation des audits entre auditeurs et audités, par un dialogue confiant entre les parties. Ce qui signifie en particulier d'établir des critères communs partagés d'évaluation et de performance, de garantir aux audités une protection rigoureuse des sources et de la confidentialité des informations qu'ils partagent, mais aussi d'établir un juste équilibre garantissant la protection des intérêts respectifs, de la confidentialité et de la transparence. Je pense que beaucoup ont été frappés, en tout cas les auditeurs publics ont été frappés de l'exemple qui a été donné dans la présentation des UCAP, Mali et Niger, et de cette péripétie un peu exceptionnelle, personnellement, si je me laissais aller, je dirais scandaleuse, de refus de communication d'un document simplement restreint à des auditeurs qui étaient, sur le fond, correctement et légalement mandatés. La nécessité d'avoir à recourir à un vote ou je ne sais quoi de haut niveau parmi les nations membres me paraît excessif, et ça montre bien que, comme à la fin l'autorisation a été donnée, ça montre bien qu'il faut d'abord négocier, discuter les conditions de l'engagement réciproque des parties dans un audit, surtout dans ce domaine extrêmement, je dirais, tendu en termes de culture, à la fois de secret et de comportement. Another highlight would be that we identified weaknesses. Was a constant in the presentation. Weaknesses of the design and management of defense programs in general and of multilateral cooperation initiatives. Be it the example we are presented again on the UCAP missions in Niger or Mali, or those of the NATO Security Investment Programme, or again with the armament program presented by the French Contrôle Général des Armées, it seems that security and defense projects and programs rather often suffer from initial misconceptions, unclear setting of objectives or requirements, mission statements, which, as a consequence, knowing that such possible weaknesses and flaws give obvious indications to auditors for risk assessments and audit planning. I also noted during our discussions that auditing does not self-legitimize. It is meant to meet the needs of stakeholders from a large panel of stakeholders, from operators to governors, civilians, militaries, all of them having different organizational cultures and disparate interests. It refers back also to the complexity and diversity of the security and defense scene. It creates specific and pressing and outstanding obligations for the auditors to cautiously word their message, as I said, for a common understanding by various stakeholders. And this also brings me to linking, probably as a final conclusion, with the question of governance and the relation between governance and the auditors' deliveries. My colleague Hans quoted General Patton this morning. I will try and quote another strategist, Sun Tzu, 2,000 years before General Patton, when he said, knowing of others, but also of oneself. No, just let me go back to it. Knowing of others, but not of yourself, will provide some success in battle. Knowing of yourself and of the others will provide constant success in battle. And this is something that probably we need to develop. The knowledge of the other, auditors providing to auditors a view on their own identity and what they are doing, and themselves, cannot be an incantation. It is a vital need for strategists. As such, the knowledge that the auditor provides to auditors cannot just remain as a notation by governing bodies. I refer to the statement by Ms. Gomez of the European Parliament when she said that defense cannot be seen as the ultimate realm of nation sovereignties, which would undermine as such the external oversight on defense and security. Ce secteur a besoin d'un auditeur externe qui soit professionnel, informé, respecté et écouté. Et peut-être que le prochain séminaire que la Cour des comptes européenne voudra organiser dans ce domaine pourra poser la question de savoir quel usage effectif peut et doit être fait par les exécutifs ou par les législatifs dans ce domaine des travaux des auditeurs qui se dévouent avec les grandes difficultés que nous avons dites à auditer les secteurs de la sécurité et de la défense. Ce n'est pas nécessairement à moi de faire ces remerciements, mais je voudrais profiter de la petite tribune, toute petite, qui m'est donnée pour vous remercier tous. Je crois que le succès d'un tel événement tient évidemment à la qualité des intervenants. Ils étaient tous de très grande qualité, mais tient également à la qualité de l'écoute. Et comme je le rappelais, la principale caractéristique d'un auditeur, c'est d'écouter. Vous avez tous très bien écouté et je vous en remercie.
Well, I will not repeat, of course. I would like to thank very warmly the two brains who made this happen, our Secretary General, Eduardo Ruiz Garcia, and Hervè-Adrien Metzger for having the idea and the organization of this workshop. Thanks to all the panels, participants, and audience. And please, I would like to give a particular thanks to some people who have been deeply involved in the organization of this event. Alfonso de la Fuente, Benjamin Jacob, Yana Pricibula, and all the protocol and visits team. Many thanks to them, because I know that they worked a lot, and that makes things go smoothly and be a success. So thank you to everybody. I have no thanks for the interpreters. We are our own interpreters. So thank you, and thank you for being here, and welcome back when we'll have the next workshop. Thank you very much.
On the screen you see the website address where you will find all the slides and presentations. And the closing reception is in our usual place. Thank you.